Okay, we've been talking a little bit about the symptom. We're on page 194 here. Let's get into it. At the bottom of 194, we have a paragraph that begins, unlike a sign. Unlike a sign, or smoke which is never found in the absence of fire, a fire that smokes indicates, with the possible call to put it out. A symptom can only be interpreted in the signifying order. So the suggestion here so far is that symptoms at the top of 194 represent a return of truth as such into the gap of a certain knowledge. Now, psychoanalytic truth is unconscious truth versus philosophical truth, which is the truth supposedly associated with consciousness. Lacan says all that amounts to is a fetishization of knowledge. So you have knowledge and philosophy on one side, truth and psychoanalysis on the other. Consciousness, unconsciousness. These are where the priorities lie. These are the moving pistons that Lacan is trying to work out here. And the symptom does something. Unlike the sign, which operates according to a logic of representation, the way that smoke represents fire, if you will, the symptom works somewhat differently. Its logic is not one of representation, where you see smoke and you know it represents fire. A symptom can only be interpreted in a signifying order. A signifier has meaning only through its relation to another signifier. So it's not a sign that has a referent in the world that we're looking at here. It's a symptom that works as a signifier connected to other signifiers. Now, the example of this, the best example that we have here is language itself. Language is a differential system of signifiers. And what I mean by that is that any one word in a given language only has meaning in relation to other words. So if you look up the word cat, for instance, and let's say you don't know English, you're just learning English, you look up the word cat, you might see something like a fuzzy, four-legged, small mammal. Well, each of those words, fuzzy, four-legged, and so on, are words that you can look up in the dictionary. Words that have their own meaning. And if you don't know English, you might not know what any of those words mean. You might recognize the word for, but what is fuzzy? So you look up fuzzy. And fuzzy has its own definition, which is comprised of other words that in turn you need to look up in order to understand the meaning of fuzzy. And each of those words in turn has its own definition. So you see what I'm saying here? It's this whole web of signifiers. And it's almost like you have to understand many, many parts of this differential web in order to make sense of the meaning of the word cat. Now, I say differential here, and it's an important word because cat does not equal fuzzy. Fuzzy is part of the definition of cat. But cat doesn't equal fuzzy. So you can't look up fuzzy and expect to see a picture of a cat. That's why it's a differential system. There are different words that you need to know in order to make sense of other words, in this case, cat and fuzzy.